up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Thought Provoking Podcast. Today, subjects are going to be bridging the gap with law enforcement. And before we get into that, I want to let you all in on a little quote that I found pretty neat today. When you get what you want, that's God's direction. When you don't get what you want, that's God's protection. So I thought that was something a little dope that I wanted to share with everybody out there. And we're going to get into the subject at hand, bridging the gap with law enforcement. Today, I got two special guests, and I appreciate you guys coming through to shed some light on some situations that we're going to discuss. I want to let you guys introduce yourself. I'm going to start with my man to my right.
I am Keith Dowdell. Excuse me.
Keith Dowdell, and you are?
I am a Gary police officer.
Gary P.D. So if you got warrants.
Don't know.
If you got warrants, this might not be for you. My man to my left.
Francisco, you can call me Cisco, and I work across the border over here in Illinois.
And
Yep.
you are?
State police.
State police. So two different lines of work, kind of. Would it be safe to say that?
Yeah.
That's what y'all both do. Similar,
Well,
but
yeah, similar. Just, a
little bit
two
different.
different states, yes. It's difference in the laws.
Okay. And I do want to definitely shed a little light on this here, man. Come bearing gifts. I like my man. He gonna be a returning guest, so y'all know. My man come bearing. Is y'all seeing this work? My man did his thing right here, man. So I definitely want to let you know, brother. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you got it, man.
Come bearing gifts, and let's get into it, man. So you're a state trooper. How long have you been a state trooper?
A little over 8 years.
A little over. Okay.
Yep.
And how long have you been in law enforcement yourself?
11 years.
11 years. Okay. So before we get off into the whole subject that we're going to talk about, I want to ask you guys to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. Where are you at mentally? What would you say?
Say a 7.
A 7?
Yeah.
What would you say plays a factor in you not being at a 10 or better?
Just day-to-day life, man.
Day-to-day life.
Just stress factors, stuff like that. I don't think you'll ever be at a 10. I mean,
Yeah. I'm sure that's about you.
I'm going to have to agree with that. I'm probably going to give myself a 7 too, because especially with the field that we in, we see stuff different every day.
Okay.
Things happen every day. And you might get some people to say, well, y'all get the same calls, yeah, but it's never the same situation.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So you'll go into something thinking that you can handle something a certain way, and then you just gotta, you gotta do something different. So
I would say, man, I'm at an 8, man. I've been feeling real good. Some of these podcast topics that I'm looking forward to putting out, things are lining up. I definitely got you guys. So this is a subject that I think is definitely gonna hit home to people. Help us bridge the gap. So I think mentally, I'm at an 8 with everything that's going on. So getting into it, fellas, I'd like to ask both of you guys, what made you choose law enforcement?
me, I've always wanted to be in law enforcement ever since I was a kid. And me living most of my life in Chicago, I wanted to not be that cop that everybody thinks cops are.
Okay.
I get there's a stereotype, but I'm here to help you, and I'm here to not be that guy. Because I'm sure, Keith, everybody has a cop story, including myself. In high school, I'd be going down the busy street, going home. There was this cop that would just pull up, get your hands on the hood, pat you down for no reason. Just you were Hispanic, you were in a group, you got to be some sort of gang member. So I wanted to get into law enforcement to not be that person, to show people that not everybody's like that.
Okay. What about you, Keith?
for me, when I was younger, I just thought it was cool. You know what I mean? I didn't really have a whole lot of issues with cops growing up. But then again, in our era when we was growing up, you saw a cop that had nothing to do with you. It had nothing to do with you. You know what I mean? So I can't really say that I had a whole bunch of negative run-ins with cops. Going to school, and we from the same neighborhood, so we know some of the same cops. Going to school with some of these cops working in our schools, and just hearing the stories and to elaborate on what Cisco said, is sometimes you want to do something that somebody can say, well, look at what they doing. You know what I mean? Not look at what they did in the past, because this is now. And as we can see, everything's different now. But, sometimes it's different to see people that look like you, that grew up with you, that's been through the struggles you've been through, doing something different. Sometimes they can open other people's eyes so that you can do something different.
So being an officer, is it true that your training is anywhere from 13 to 19 weeks to be an officer?
You talking about as far as the police academy?
Police academy.
16 weeks.
16 weeks. Is it the same for you?
Mine
I've
was
heard that
26.
It's 26. Okay, I had
Yeah, that's
27.
the difference between a city cop and then a state cop.
Okay.
You gotta learn more.
See, I've done a little homework. You know, I was around the ballpark. It was 27 is what I put, and your training is a little bit longer because you're more equipped to deal with every situation versus.
Yeah, so state laws, not city ordinances or something like that.
And is it true that at any given time you can get called to basically go deal with other districts? You're
Yep.
not stuck into just.
Yeah, so that's your patrol assignment is the expressway. However, something happens in a neighboring town, you got to go. You know what's going on. You know all the state, or you're supposed to know.
Okay, so you're pretty much equipped to deal with any situation that comes.
Yeah, that's safe
way.
to say.
I was told also that when you guys need backup, you're kind of limited. It's kind of really you out there dealing with the situation until you can get someone local or
Right.
another state trooper that may possibly be in the area. Is that kind of
Exactly.
correct to say?
Yep,
Okay.
you're riding solo all day.
Okay. And it's not the same for you, right, Keith?
It's not because we city cops, so we deal with the inner city, so we got more people that's in the city. You know what I mean? So if I need a backup, or we may ride 2-man cars. You know what I mean? So if I need a backup, I know somebody that's at least at the minimum, I would say probably about 5 to 6 minutes away from me.
Okay. So with you guys having different lengths of training, would you say, because you have years and you have years, looking back from the training that you had up until what's going on now, would you guys say that that amount of training is sufficient to be an officer now, or do you think that it should be a little bit longer or something added to the training? What would you guys say?
For me, the training is, the training in the academy is what it is. That is to teach you, about the laws and things that you need to learn about law, so you don't go out there and mess up. Now, once you get out there, they put you in a car with these FTOs that teach you how to be the police in the state or the city that you're policing in.
Okay.
So, and for my department, for instance, you'll get 3 FTOs. Okay, so they teaching you. They supposed to teach you the same thing, and then you take something from each of one of them. So when you get on your own, then you can teach. You take what they taught you, and then you put it all together, and then you become your own officer.
Okay. That works. What would you say?
Agreeing with Keith, I do agree it could be a little longer. However, training ain't real world.
Yeah.
So a lot of that stuff you don't learn until you're in it. But I do agree that there should be some sort of, I don't know, man, like mental counseling or something where you're not going to freak out the first time you see a gun or something, Like, it's hard to explain because we could do training all day, but that doesn't mean that when you encounter it, that's going to kick in. You would like for it to kick in, and a lot of people, when they do have those encounters, do say, my training kicked in. But it's a touchy subject, man. How much is too much? How much is enough? Who's going to fund it?
Yeah.
We're already on defund the police. Are people going to be on board with more funding for more training? I would like to think so, but it is what it is. It's always been it is what it is, but nobody's really got an answer.
How do you guys feel about when you hear in the news and people quoting defund the police? How does it make you feel being an officer of the law?
Me, I'm not gonna say it doesn't affect me, but I don't let it steal my focus. I got to do what I got to do. I got to get home, and that's it, man. People are going to say what they want to say. I don't like that that's being said now, but those are the times we got, those are the cards we got dealt.
Yeah.
You just got to do your best, and as long as you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, you shouldn't have any issues.
I agree. If you're doing what you're supposed to do, then you got no worries. For me, instance, there's a lot of cops that, when you out doing something, you got the crowd coming out because they see red and blue lights, they hear sirens. Everybody's now a journalist or a medialist or however you want to say it. They got their phones out. Some people, I don't want to be on camera. They'll get in the car and leave. me per se, I'm not gonna do that because I know I ain't gonna do nothing wrong. I'm not gonna do something that's gonna possibly land myself in jail. You know what I mean? So if I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it to the best way I know how. Because I'm not out here to get myself in trouble. I'm not here to put nobody else in trouble that don't deserve it. You know what I mean? And I'm one of those cops that don't believe that everybody deserves to go to jail because jail ain't for everybody. You know, you can put somebody in jail and they'll lose their mind. They'll lose their mind, and then you gotta deal with them after they come out.
Yeah, you definitely do.
That's what they call them, repeat offenders. That you know, and then they'll look at you and say, "Oh, well, you put me in jail. F you this, F you that," and then you'll get some that say, "Man, you saved my life.
Yeah.
You know, that time you locked me up, you saved my life."
Do you all think that part of the job gets highlighted ever when he says there are some people who have been locked up and they come and say, "Man, that saved my life"? Do you think that gets highlighted ever?
I do feel like it gets highlighted, but just doesn't get exposed as much.
Get that much exposure?
So like Keith says, you know, you've heard the stories. Maybe it'll go to a small group. Everybody knows. Maybe the block knows that this happened, but that's about it.
So it just stays as a kind of local.
Yeah, kind of.
So with that, just to elaborate a little bit, you can do 3 or 4 things good as a cop. You know, you can do 3 or 4 things good, but that one thing you do wrong or people think you did wrong, it's gonna blow up way more than that 3 or 4 things that you just did good.
That's interesting.
So then you got to live up to, oh well, you just did this, you just did that, but nobody ever sees the 3 or 4 things that you just did for this person or persons that you know you just helped out. That don't get the limelight.
To write on that, Keith, but that's pretty much day to day too, though.
Yeah.
You do somebody 3 favors and the 4th, you know. That doesn't mean it doesn't just apply to law enforcement. It applies to life, where you could do everything right. The one time you mess up, everybody's got you. So
I want to ask you guys, when you hear the frustration from around the world, not just the black community, sometimes you have whites, Hispanics that are frustrated with what's going on. Can you guys understand where that frustration comes from? Or do
yes,
you think it's one-sided?
no, I can understand it.
Yeah, I can understand it. You know what I mean? Because, like I said, when we was growing up, it was different. You know, now everybody's just bringing things to light.
Yeah.
So, yeah, now the frustration gets higher and higher because now people are just showing it more and more. So yeah, you're gonna get frustrated. It's just how you deal with that frustration. You know what I mean? That makes the person in you. That So
What would you say?
I do agree. Just because we weren't born cops, you know.
Yeah.
I had to live on the south side. I had to grow up in not the most optimal community. I had to go through all that. I had to go through negative experiences, positive experiences. So I know how it feels when you're driving and a cop's behind you and you're just like, oh man, it just gives you that uneasy feeling that who knows where that's coming from. I like to tell people there's truth to stereotypes that doesn't come from anywhere, you know. When people say F the police, stuff like that, it's because at one point in time somebody made a mistake and that stuck. So that's not, it's not today I woke up and I had this thought in my head. No, it's because of years of negative interactions. And that's just the blanket that was put over law enforcement. But in a way, you could also argue that it was put on there because you're the one that did it.
yeah.
I always tell people, don't start none, won't be none. But at the same time, there are those people that'll do it just to do it. Just because I didn't like how you looked at me or whatever.
Do you mean just a regular?
On both sides.
Okay, on both sides.
So a cop, I'm sure it happens. Cop don't like that dude, or used to go to school together, or I just, whatever the case may be, it might want to stick it to you this particular day just because. And then that person, the same thing. Man, this dude's a cop now. He thinks he's all this and that. It works both ways, but I don't think it stems from just from magic, you know. It's because of negative experiences where, man, today I was walking home, this cop did this to me. And you just build that rage, that negative energy against law enforcement.
So let me ask you a question since you spoke on that. There's many people, we have all these social media platforms. You got Instagram, you got Facebook, you got Snapchat. If you guys are on social media, it's hard for me to believe that you guys don't see it. When you see people post, F the police, F12, F pigs, can't stand all y'all, does it affect how you police on a regular day-to-day basis?
No. I like to treat people face value. Now, I do have people that say that to my face, but with the training that I've had where they break you down, I guess you kind of get numb to it. But I've never been in the situation where I've gotten overwhelmed by emotions because people are yelling at me. And I hope to never be in that situation. But so far, so good, man. I haven't had that. Yeah.
What about you, Keith?
For me, man, I was a rookie at one point in time, you know what I mean? So I was out there gung-ho, and first time I was able to drive a police car by myself, I was lights and sirens, everything. Didn't know what the hell I was doing. So with growth, you know, you hear it all day long, you know, F the police or F12. And me personally, I have no idea where the phrase 12 came from, so
Right.
I don't let that affect me. Honestly, if you see me out in the streets and you say F12, I'm going to tell you I'm 13. You know, because if you don't know what 12 means, you don't know what 13 means. And I don't either. So if somebody's yelling, and I've had it happen to me while doing my job, oh, F the police, F the police. It doesn't bother me because my first name ain't police. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So that just may be how you feel at the time. And that just may be how you feel, period. But my first name ain't police. Until you come up to me and put your finger in my face and say F you by your first name, then I know it's personal between me and you. Other than that, I mean, people say it's just a job. It's really not, because, you know, you got people out here taking lives of cops now. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I don't want to be one of those people that I'm driving down the street, I come to a stop sign or a stoplight, and I got somebody waiting on the corner for me with like an AR or AK or something like that, and walk up to me, and then now I'm gone. So for people to say F12 or F the police, like I said, it doesn't bother me because that's not my first name. So I'm so humble now, man. You can literally walk up to me and curse me out, and I'll be like, thank you. And I'll turn around and walk away.
Take a lot of strength.
It does. Like I said,
I'm not an officer, and I mean, people saying it directly to my face, it enrages me. You know, it makes me want to react. I mean, as much as we say we grown and, you know, stay away from certain situations, that's just somebody talking unless they put their hands on you. We human. Right. So, I mean, with you guys dealing with this stuff on a everyday basis, it takes a whole lot of strength to say, okay, have a nice day, go about your business, and not react.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure it's hard for some people. On the same note, Keith, being a police doesn't define me.
Okay.
You know, I don't go to home and I'm a cop at home, you know? Like, when I'm done with my shift, that stays outside of my house.
That's it. That work is over, yeah.
So you guys can let the job go once you clock out. It's
right.
You know, kind of.
There are some people though that's hard for them.
Yeah.
They
take it home. Now I will say this, and I don't mean to interrupt, and I know, but I will say this. So for me, I've been doing this 11 years. The hardest thing for me to do, and I've done it to this day, is see something or have to deal with something that involves kids. You know what I mean? Because they didn't do or say nothing to be brought into this situation. You know, I've had to go with some people to remove some kids from my household. And talking to this young man, when I say this young man, he was at the age probably about 10, I think. You know, and when they were asking him questions, he was answering them like, you know, he's our age. And I'm like, man, that's horrible. Now he's got to be removed from his family. And this young man is smart enough to know if something happens, you know, what to do or how to deal with it. So for me, still to this day, 11 years and going on 12 years, if anything involving a child, it's, you know, it'll get to me. But then again, I got to know when I go home, I can't take that home because I also got a family to go home to. You know what I mean? I don't want them to look at me and say, "Well, look at Daddy, he's stressing." You know. So
So when you bottle that type of energy up, you could honestly say that that doesn't affect you when you police.
no, it doesn't affect me when I police. So here's what I do: if I start feel like I'm getting that pressure or that stress or whatever the case may be, and I will tell you to this day, I don't let nothing stress me.
Okay.
Because stressing will put you in the hospital. It'll kill you. I do not let nothing stress me. My mom say, I don't know how you do it. I'll tell you, hey, honestly, I'll tell you, let go and let God. You know what I mean? So that's what you got to do. So for me, I don't let it bottle up, but I get rid of it. When I get to that point and I start feeling it, feel like my head's about to explode, I'll go out of town. So if I go out of town and then I leave all my worries out of town, this is somebody else's trouble out here. I don't have to deal with their problems.
Yeah.
So I just go out there and I'll just let it all out. I don't bother nobody. You know what I mean? I stick with my group. I don't bother nobody, and when I come back, I'm fresh. That's how I deal with my stresses. If you would call it stresses, because I really, honestly, God, I don't stress. Got enough gray hair going on already. Still
So
young.
before you guys came on, I asked you both individually, was there any questions that I couldn't ask and you both were open to talking about whatever? I always say there's a lot of myths. Some may be true, but you guys can answer or speak on it. A lot of people say police officers in law enforcement are not trained to shoot a person in the shoulder or the leg just to stop them. That they are trained strictly to shoot and kill. Is there any truth to that?
It could be interpreted that way, but you're trained to stop the threat. Now, in the academy, they don't tell you stop the threat means shoot him in the arm. In the academy, that's what you're training. You're training for center mass. Center mass means center mass. Anything in the center. So, I mean, it could be interpreted that way, but the academy is never going to tell you shoot him in the head. There's just not, because it's too much of a touchy subject. But you are trained to shoot center mass and stop the threat. And stop the threat doesn't mean shoot him once. Stop the threat means stop the threat. If that takes once, if that takes 16, it's really open to the officer's interpretation. And I don't know what the right answer to that is. How many bullets does it take to stop a threat? I don't know. If it's a regular person, maybe twice, 3 times. I don't know. When you're on that adrenaline, man, you kind of lose sight of what's going on. And I would like to think that if I'm ever in that situation, it's not excessive. But what is excessive? If this dude's on PCP or some other type of drug where he's not here mentally, and he's not, sometimes those pain receptors are numbed, so he's not feeling this pain. Now, I get it, on camera, it doesn't look good. It doesn't. But as long as you do everything according to what your policy is, you're good to go. Whether that means you stopped him, it took you 15 rounds to stop him. Do I think that's excessive personally? Yes. However, does policy say you can only shoot him 3 times? No. It says stop the threat. So whatever that is, it is what it is. But it's a gray area, man.
It's a gray area. What would you say, Keith?
I totally agree, man. I totally agree with that. I've been in a situation, like, for instance, when I was telling y'all about before we started, this young man, his gun jammed on him. So after we was able to get him in handcuffs and all this other stuff, we had to take him to the hospital. Come to find out, he was high off a PCP. He had no idea what was going on.
So what happened in that situation, if you don't mind telling it?
Yeah, no, I don't mind. So we got a call of a young man standing in the front yard shooting his gun in the air. Okay, so we go. 9 times out of 10, when we go somewhere and somebody say somebody's shooting, they're not there no more. You know what I mean? Because they don't want to be caught. So this day, this guy was still there. We get there, and sure enough, there he is in the yard. He's trying to clear his gun. The only reason he stopped shooting is because his gun jammed. He had an off-name mag in his gun that made his gun jam. Listen, if you ever hear a cop tell you that tunnel vision is real, I am here to tell you right now, it is real. I've been in that situation, and thank God I didn't have to take this man's life, but it didn't happen. Okay, it didn't happen. Let me just say that. So I gave him commands to drop the gun, and pardon my language, this guy looked at me. He turned around, looked at me, and told me, "Man, fuck you." So at that point, everything got quiet. I saw nothing but me and him. Going into it, I thank God that his gun jammed. Me and my partners were there. We were able to get close. We was actually able to walk up on him and take his gun and put him down on the ground, get him in handcuffs. So we did, because something was wrong with this guy. You know, something was wrong with him. Even when we put him in handcuffs, we stood him up. We told him to sit in the police car. He looked around, said, "I ain't doing shit." You know, so we put him in the police car and we take him to the hospital, and they do all their tests in the hospital, and they come back and tell us this guy was on PCP. So if, to speak on that situation where it takes 1 or it takes 13, who knows what it would have took to stop this guy if he was able to clear his jam out of his gun. You know what I mean? He had 30 rounds in his magazine as opposed to my 13. You know what I'm saying? So who knows how many rounds it would have took. Even so, it's not like the movies where you can shoot somebody and they jumping. It's not like the movies. Once they go in you, they go in you. You know, and they keep going. You're not doing all this jumping. So if you don't feel it, you don't feel it. And sometimes you have enough, that adrenaline get to you, you can keep going. And nobody knows that you can keep going until you actually put in that situation. So, like you said, if it takes 1 or if it takes 16, you just don't know. You know what I mean? And you really don't want to be put in that situation, but it just, I take a vow every day I walk out of my house. My mental vow is I must go home with the same amount of holes I left with. You know what I mean? That doesn't, and I know a lot of people say, well, it's cops out there that want to go out and kill people. That doesn't tell me, because I want to go home with the same amount of holes that I left with, to go out there and take somebody's life. That don't, for me to tell myself I need to go home for my family, that don't give me the right to go out there and say, I'm going to kill somebody today.
So when you say, just to go back to a point that you made, there's a gray area. You talked about how the academy teaches you guys center mass. What would you say to viewers that's watching this? Because people are going to say, okay, you're saying it's a gray area, but when you see people like a Dylan Roof, who goes to a church, he kills, and he's taken into custody, taken to Burger King, and countless others that's non-black or brown, these guys don't suffer the same fate that a lot of African American or brown people suffer. So that you say what?
To that I say, I believe it is unfair, personally, but I also think each organization has their own set of rules. So for us, gun in hand does not mean gun in use.
Okay.
So you could be walking around your yard with the AR or a gun. You could just be walking around. That doesn't mean I can shoot you. You got to physically point it at me or shoot at me for me to respond. Now, different organizations, that doesn't mean the same thing. Gun in hand could mean gun in use for them. Or they could be like us, where you just shot up a church, and if we show up and you're just give up, then we got to take you into custody. That's it. Do I think that's fair to everybody else that just got shot up? I don't think it's fair personally. But the rules aren't set on my how I feel. The rules are set in place, and that's what you got to do. That's what your I don't remember how to say it, but basically it all falls on each department's policy. So would I like for it to be one policy across the nation? I think that would be optimal. But again, if he shoots somebody up, puts his hands up, he technically gave up.
Why do you guys think that it's not across the board? When you're law enforcement, you're at that particular time kind of judge and jury in this particular moment. Why do you think that there are still gray areas? Now, I get in situations, there's a difference between someone being on PCP coming to assault you just by hand, which you can still hit somebody at the right angle and kill them, versus someone with a gun. it's for you to determine how you stop this person, or why do you think that there are still gray areas with all of what's going on worldwide? Why is there no, this is a policy across the board?
Well, I think that's because of how policing was back in the day.
Okay.
From different states. Of course, we all know them southern states. They could pretty much almost do anything they wanted to.
What they want, yeah.
You know what I mean? But so every state has their own laws, and like Cisco was saying, with every police department has their own set of SOPs that you got to follow. You know what I mean? So, and when you say gun in hand, it's not really a threat until somebody points that gun at you. You know what I mean? And in the state of Indiana, you can walk around with a gun outside all day long. You just be casually walking down the street. You know what I mean? And there's nothing I can do to you because you have a legal right to carry that gun down the street.
So somebody, that's a good point that you made, because you can go ahead and, as long as you have a legit gun permit, you can openly carry. If an officer sees, not that you should do it, but it's your right, I'm walking down the street with my AR-15. Neighbor calls and says, hey, see somebody walking with an AR-15, not sure what's going on, but this is what's going on. And you pull up and you ask me, hey, everything all right? And I ignore you and I just keep walking. Do you have the right at that point to pull me over, detain me, or any of that when you didn't suspect me of a crime?
Absolutely not.
What about you? Would you say that's accurate?
It's a gray area, man, for me.
See, right here, we got
so
two different.
I'll speak for us. Like I say, every state got their own laws. You know what I mean? So in the state of Indiana, you can be 18 and walk into the gun store and legally purchase a rifle.
Yeah, you could. It's not a handgun.
Right. You got to be 21 in order to purchase a handgun. So if I see you walking down the street with an AR, if I pull up on you and say, hey, man, what you going to do? Everything all right? And you just ignore me, then you just ignore me. Until you commit a crime or until you lift that barrel at somebody, then you, in the eyes of the law, you committed no crime because it's your constitutional right to carry that gun.
Okay. Now, is there a gray area for you because
of the state?
The state,
Right.
Okay. But
let's
if
just say
you
I
were
was in Indiana.
and that's the law, then you would agree with what Keith says, or for you, is it still, I see this person with an AR-15?
No, I would agree
matter
with what Keith says because he's just walking. Now, you can try and talk to him, but you're not going to legally detain him.
Okay. I want to ask you a question. So, obviously, with the killings of unarmed black and brown people, we've all seen it in the news. You had people get frustrated and say, how can you, as a black man, be with this gang, be with these people that's killing us? So that you say what?
To that I say, everybody ain't the same.
Okay.
I'm in it for the right reasons. I can't speak for everybody, but the people that I do know that are still doing it are in it for the right reasons. There's not a lot of cops that I know going around killing people. For instance, here's one. He ain't going around killing people. And he's a friend of mine. So if somebody come up to me and ask me, I like to engage in conversations like that because a lot of people don't know that you can have a conversation and I can tell you something that you might not know that will help you understand why I still do what I do. Because there's real people out there that still thinks that the world needs police for help. To a certain extent, it do. We were having that conversation. Those people going out there all F12, F the police and all this and that. But then, somebody kicking their door in, and then that same F12, you just said, got to come and try to get this person to come and stop this person from getting your door. Now, some people ask me questions like, well, why y'all always go and run and, turn your lights on when you get to a light? You know what I mean? A couple of my FTOs taught me, you run hot to something hot if you have to. However, if you want me to catch this person in the act, if I'm going hot, lights and sirens, they're going to hear my sirens. And then what they're going to do is they're going to tear your house up and take off. You know what I mean? So would you want me to catch them or would you want me to just scare them and then get them out of there?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Have anybody ever approached you asking you with what's going on, how do you continue to be a police officer? Has anybody ever approached you with that conversation?
No,
If they did, you would say what?
I'm trying to be the change, right? That's the goal here, is for a police officer to be the friendly person, to be the help that you need when it hits the fan. So, again, all these past years have been negative. I mean, I'm sure there's some positive, but it's mostly been negative. And in a way, I kind of like that recording devices and all that stuff because it holds you accountable now. Mm-hmm. It's not where, I'm sure back in the day, like I said, I would walk home. There used to be this certain cop, pull up, all right, hands on the hood, and you're like, I'm 15, dude. Like, I'm going home. What? So other people that might be traumatizing. To me, thankfully, it wasn't. But I can see how something like that can turn me into a F the police person. Like, I wasn't doing anything. I was going home. I had my backpack. We had uniforms. I didn't have gang colors on. Why? So in a way, I feel like the change is coming, and I hope it comes sooner rather than later. But yeah, I'm in law enforcement because I want to be that change.
Can you see the things that you do in law enforcement spread to other officers to say, man, I kind of like how he's doing it. I'm going to take this approach.
Yeah, and that also comes in training. So for us, when we pull you over, we have to tell you what we pulled you, introduce myself, why I pulled you over, and give you reasons. A lot of cops just kind of pull you over and like, do you know why I pulled you over for? And you're just like, no. Or you might know, and just, it already gives you that confrontation. Do you know why I pulled you over? And you're just like, relax, dude. And that gets you on edge. That gets him on edge, and we're not getting anywhere. Instead of saying, hey, sir, good afternoon. I pulled you over for speeding. Do you know how fast you were going? No. Okay, let me tell you how fast you were going. And then we'll go from there. But that comes in training, but that also comes in not being a hothead. You know what I'm saying? Like, but that's just life, man. I can't control your actions, Keith's actions. We can try to train the right way, but is that going to stick? I don't know.
So with everybody policing totally different, the question I like to pose to you guys, if you see an officer that's with you trying to take care of whatever situation is out there and they're stepping out of line, abuse or violating someone's rights, would you be bold enough to step in and say, we're not doing that, and physically stop it if you had to? And the reason why I asked that is because there was a woman named Carolyn Horn in Buffalo, New York. Not sure if you guys know her story, but she responded to a call where an officer needed help. He was dealing with a African-American male, and this officer was able to cuff him. As she pulled up, the officer was punching on the man. She stepped in to say, hey, enough is enough, after the guy actually said, I can't breathe. The officer then went back, I guess, to the station and said that this woman put his life in danger, and she was terminated. And after the George Floyd killing, she was actually able to get paid. Mm-hmm. Do you guys feel that you would be able to step in and take care of that situation when you see an officer doing something wrong? Because obviously the rumor is that, no, you guys have fear that the rest of the squad will turn on you or you get fired. Do you guys have any fear of that?
For me, I don't, because I am my own person. So if I pull up and I see you doing something wrong, I'm going to try to stop you. There's a lot of reasons behind it. One is because the world has cameras now. Mm-hmm. Everybody and their grandmother got a camera. So now you're putting yourself in trouble. Second reason being, if I show up, I've told these dispatchers that I'm going to that call. Okay. So now, if I just sit there and let you beat the hell out of somebody for no reason, and everybody and their grandma with these cameras say, well, that other officer's just standing there. So now you get yourself in trouble. You know what I mean? So, for me, I'll try my best to stop you. You know what I mean? Now, if you don't want to stop, or you just too caught up in it, then you got to take that L by yourself. I'm gonna do what I can do. like I said, I'm in it for the right reason still. I don't believe everybody need to go to jail. I don't want to fight nobody that don't want to fight me because I don't know if the world know, but when we put all that equipment on, it's like we carrying another body.
Heavy as shit.
You know what I mean? And then we got people out there trying to run from us. We got to, you know, we chasing after people with these boots on, this vest, this gun belt, and all this other stuff, you know, that we got on. It's crazy. So I don't want to fight. You know what I mean? You sound like you're on Cops for real. I don't know if y'all used to watch Cops back in the day.
Oh, yeah,
but,
yeah.
Yep.
You know, once you get done, you know, it's horrible. I don't feel like it. You know what I mean? So I'm going to try what I can do. Well, I'm going to do what I can do to try to stop you. And, you know, not to help you, not to get yourself in trouble. Because then you give people, you know, the right to say, well, look at them. There go another one. You know what I mean? And look at that other one just sitting there watching. Yeah. I don't want to be that other one just sitting there watching. No, knock it off.
Would you step in?
Yeah, to build on Keith, I would step in, and thankfully, in my department, we do have a policy for duty to intervene. That's what it's called, duty to intervene, meaning somebody's out of line, they're doing too much, you got to do something. You can't just sit there and watch. Now, was that the case back in the day? Maybe. I don't know. I can't speak because I wasn't in the force there. But thankfully, there are these policies in place to help from something like that from happening. Which is, I don't want to say a silver lining, but George Floyd incident kind of solidified that, unfortunately. Like, it had to take that for that to happen. Like, unfortunately, yeah, a lot of our laws, something's got to happen before something changes. And usually it's a negative thing. But now I can say that that is in place. So now, even if I personally don't feel like it, I have to legally, you know? So me personally, yeah, I've always felt like that. Now I have that legal aspect where if I don't do nothing, then it's on me.
That's cool. Me as an African American man, I respect police officers. I've had 2 small encounters with police, nothing where anyone put their hands on me or anything like that. It was just verbal. But I respect police in the sense that I have the luxury of running away from things that you guys got to go deal with. If I'm in the bank and someone comes to rob it and want to shoot the place up and give me your money, everybody get on the ground. If I can get out of there and take off, I have the luxury of doing that. If I'm in the shopping mall, somebody comes and shoot the mall up, I have the luxury of getting out of there. Whereas you guys got to go contain that situation. So for me, I have a lot of respect for law enforcement. It is unfortunate, some of the stuff that's going on in the world with law enforcement. But I kind of get a little frustrated myself when you have a lot of these regular folks that are not committing crimes and they follow the trend of F the police and, you know, all of this silly mentality when you haven't had a bad encounter with police officers. You know, you can't use, I'm speeding because I'm late to work. He didn't pull me over. You know, he A, B, and C. Like, he doing his job. You were speeding. Like, sometimes we got to take accountability. But I do understand certain people's frustration when it comes to certain things with law enforcement. Mm-hmm. Are you guys ever in a situation to where you're frustrated if you go respond to a call or you see something on the highway and you have to deal with it and instantly someone pulls their phone out? Is that a situation that either of you feel like that's a no?
No.
You're fine with people
it's all good.
reporting?
Yeah, do what you want to do. I got to acknowledge that you're doing it. Like, I can't just be oblivious to another individual now is in the picture. You got to give me space to work. That's about it. I'm not going to snatch that phone. I'm not going to, don't record me. None of that. You do what you want. But I do have to address that you're here.
Yeah, there's a reason why I pulled you
So,
over.
yeah. So, and you could just acknowledge it like, okay, yeah, whatever.
I'm the same way. Like I said, I don't mind being on camera. I don't mind. I have no social media. None. So when other people put me on social media, I think it's the dopest thing in the world. Whether you call it good, you call it bad, or you call it ugly, I think it's the dopest thing in the world. Somebody to come back and tell me, man, I saw you on Facebook. Oh, I saw you doing this. I'm like, well, that's cool because I don't remember. Well, show me. You know what I mean? And I had an instance like that, you know, with one of these guys. We were dealing with something, and I don't think I did it, but I guess this person was gung ho. It was me. Say I cursed him out and told him to go do something else. I never did that. I never said it, but because this person knew who I was, they was like, "Well, yeah, I know it was him. I know who that is." Blah 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 blah. You know what I mean? But for me to go on social media, I think it's dope. I think it's dope because I don't have no social media platforms. I don't really care what you put me on. I don't really care what you call me. You can say what you want to say about me. Like I said, I'm my own person. Ain't nobody can get me in trouble in this world but me. So I encourage you. I got a dimple on this side. It took me a couple years of work on it to get that side though.
Yeah. Me, as a 33-year-old man, I have 2 young boys. And my youngest is a little younger to where he don't really understand the conversation, but I've been slowly but surely telling my oldest son, listen, your job is to get home safely if you have to deal with law enforcement. I can deal with paying for a ticket. I can deal with getting you out of jail if that's what it comes to, give you license, registration, insurance when that time comes for you, and just get home safely. I can't bring you back from a killing. And that's my mindset when it comes to my kids because, again, you can't bring someone back after death.
Right.
That's over. You have kids. What conversation do you have, if any, with your kids with the state of the world as it is?
Right now, she's too young,
Too young.
but not even because you could speak to young children and they kind of understand. You just might not think they don't, but they pick up on stuff that just like they pick up on bad words and stuff like that. They can pick up notions and knowledge you're trying to drop on them. But like, just act like you're supposed to act, which is also a gray area. What does that mean?
That's what I was going to ask. I'm
Like,
glad you put that out there.
It's hard, man. I mean, don't break the law, but that's also like, what does that mean? It's hard, man, and it's tough that you have to have this conversation with your loved ones, your children, because why you shouldn't even be having this conversation to begin with.
Yeah. It's necessary.
It's
now.
necessary now. Just try to guide them and say, hey, some of these things are wrong to do. Just be respectful. Do as you're told to do, and you should have no problems. You got to throw in that should, because just like any other profession, you might have that one day where you get that one person that's just not there mentally. They're at their limit, and even though you did the right things, you did what you were asked, you still had the negative outcome. But I mean, that could also be said with life. I mean, you could be doing everything you're supposed to be doing, and then that one incident changes your life forever. So, yeah, I would have that conversation. I would try to tell them these are the right things to do, these are the wrong things to do. That's about it, man. Just leave it to fate, I guess. I mean, it's a hard question to answer because nobody has the right answer.
Yeah.
It's all going to be situational because we're not all the same. We're not on the same mindset.
That's true. What about you, Keith?
For me, with my kids, I like to do it jokingly. You know, of course, we know each other from growing up, especially around the same neighborhood, going to the same high school. I was always, the class clown
Yeah.
of the bunch. So, believe it or not, my kids are silly, just like me. So I like to play around with them with that. Both of my kids know I'm a cop. You know what I mean? So they know, and my son and my daughter will tell you, Daddy, you going out there taking a bad people to jail, and then we'll play around with it from there. So I like to do it jokingly. So, but they know, what to do and what not to do. You know what I mean? My daughter's 11, my son's 4. So my son, he think everything is cool. He think everything is cool. My daughter think everything is cool, but now she's into the phone stuff. The kids with their phones.
Oh yeah, all the time.
The social medias and the TikToks or whatever the case may be. But she always know that if you do something wrong, Daddy gonna let you know you did it wrong. You know what I mean? And you can't do that, especially if it comes to this law enforcement stuff.
Right.
When my daughter was younger, she used to tell me, Daddy, I want to be a cop. Back in the day, 9-10 years ago, I would say, well, that's cool. It's a good thing to do. Now, I wouldn't want my child, neither one of my kids, to be a cop, because in the eyes of the world, everybody that put on a uniform, whether it be brown, black, blue, or whatever uniform, these police departments or these agencies wear, everybody look at you with a sore eye. Now you the bad guy, per se. So, but yeah, I like to joke around with my kids with it, so they'll get it, they'll understand it, they'll remember it. Because if you just, you sit and have a conversation with the youngins, you know what I'm saying, they ain't gonna tend to listen to you. You having a real serious conversation, like a real, hey, sit down and we gonna do this, you know what I mean, for my kids' age. So if I tell them jokingly, I know they're gonna remember because they had fun doing it. So that's the way I look at it.
With you, I'm curious to know, how do you clear your mind, because you're equipped to deal with rapes, drug trafficking, highway shootouts, all of this stuff that you see on a regular basis. How do you get yourself to a point where you maintain saying none of this affects you to where you police any different than what you set out to the way you set out to police, rather?
You got to talk about it. You can't just bottle it up. Now, my wife, I'll mention here and there. I don't really tell her too much because I don't want to stress her out either.
Okay.
So I talk to my close friends about it. And pick up a hobby. Do something. It'll help you manage that stress. But, I mean, I'm sure everybody's got a cap on stress.
Yeah.
You just got to do what you can to help that, to help mitigate that. But I would suggest a hobby, or at the very least talking to somebody, or maybe putting yourself in their situation. If I was that person, how would I react? Mm-hmm. And I don't want to say replay the same thing over and over, because that's just gonna you get tired of it, But my big thing is a hobby. Pick up a hobby. Like I do this woodworking, and that helps me, decompress.
And yours is travel, right?
Yeah, like I said, when I get up there, I go somewhere else and I just let it go.
Yeah, you got to kind of learn to let it go too. Yeah. It's not easy.
Yeah.
We're not born, like I said, born police. When you go to the academy, you get kind of brought into that mentality where you're always on yellow. They tell us green, yellow, red. You're always on yellow. You're always on your tiptoes. You're always, this guy might not be the one, but he could be the one, And that that breaks your mind and your body down throughout the course of your career. But you also have to do stuff like this, like hobbies, talking to people. Don't bottle it up. That situation doesn't define the next situation. Because, I mean, on this job, you could be on the highest high, and then the next thing you go handle, dead kids. Or you're driving 90, 100 miles an hour because you got to get to a priority call. You got to start mentally coaching yourself. All right, if I get on scene, this dude might be dead. What am I going to do? There might be 10 people. There might be 20 people. There might be people recording. Media might be there. You have to think of all these things before you even get on scene. Sometimes you get on scene and it's just some person freaking out on the phone that blew it up way out of proportion. Thank God. But there's other times where you just get one caller that just passed by and saw it, and you're just like, yeah, whatever. It ain't even that important. And you get there and it's,
Exactly what it is. Yeah.
Do you guys ever suggest an outlet to your stations to say, hey, you guys understand what we deal with on a day-to-day basis. These are some programs that I think should be implemented to where we can relieve, some of the stress, because I think you'll never get over it because, when you go back to it, there's things you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Do you all ever suggest, any of programs that you could think of, or therapy or anything that, fixes
Well, there are some departments that offer, things like that. People you can talk to, you know what I mean. And I'm sure these are things that has been in place before me and him.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So, me personally, I have not, because I had to learn how to deal with it on my own. You know what I mean? So if I go, let's just say I go to my chief and say, "Hey, chief, when you see somebody going through something, send them away out of town somewhere and let them just let it all hang out, because it may not work for them. I just do it because it works for me. So it may not work for everybody what I do, but yeah, there's things in place that or people in place you can talk to, and situations are different. Where you got to have those conversations with people. But yeah, for me, I have not personally.
Are you big on suggesting anything, or
I have same thing. I've never suggested. I'm not big on it either, but that's just me. I think we do have somewhere where you can call, but that's about it. I mean, maybe I'm not doing enough. At the same time, I don't want to be bugging people and telling them, "Hey guys, you could do this and that." But on the flip side, you could be, you could be telling them, "Hey, if anybody wants to learn about woodworking, hit me up. We can hang out." It's tough, man. It's just like if you go to your 9-to-5 job, are you gonna be telling your coworkers, "Hey guys, you guys want to do this or that?" They're gonna like.
But I think we should, and the reason why I say I think we should is because, like the title of this actual episode, bridging the gap between law enforcement and regular civilians. How do we get to that point? When you have so many folks who are scared that they're gonna die if they encounter law enforcement, and it's not everybody, everything's not gloom and doom, but there are people out there that do feel like that. They don't want to deal with law enforcement. They see the videos, they see what's on the news, things of that nature. So I think we all should. And the reason why I say that as well is because, like I gave you all the story of a friend of mine who he quotes F the police just because I personally feel like it's the popular thing to do. And I pull his coattail and I say, "Man, I've never heard you tell a story of being pulled over, harassed. I've never heard you say that you were abused by police officers, any of that. You're just quoting that because it's the popular thing to say. It's, what's trendy right now." So by me calling him out and actually having that conversation, I'm not going to say it fully stopped him from doing it, but I did put something on his mind to make him think maybe I am doing the wrong thing. So I think if you all work together with people that's in the same line of work that you all are in and say like, "Hey man, I be stressed out too. How do you deal with your stress?" And when they don't have an answer, like you said, you do work offering that support to say, "Hey, we have this in place, with the academy or within the station, but I also do this here. Man, if you think you're ever interested, why not come do it?" I think that that's a starting point to, make people think, because again, we can only imagine what certain officers deal with on a day-to-day basis. You may have had 3 individuals that you just dealt with that they're flat assholes. And now the fourth, you encounter me where I'm not doing much, but you fed up. Maybe that stress reliever that you offered to this person may make that fourth person that they encounter not be that person that they take advantage of in any kind of way. So, that's just a suggestion.
Well, so I would suggest it to other officers for me to go to the top and say, "Hey, this is how I deal with mine. Maybe you should do this." And me personally, I think people will take it up. They'll want to do it. For one reason being is you get to go out of town and just let it all hang out. It's gonna be fun for you. You know what I mean? But if I see somebody personally, if I was to call Cisco and say, "Man, what's going on?" and I can hear it in his voice, "Hey man, maybe you should just go, just go take a ride somewhere," I would tell him, you know what I mean? But I would tell another person that I'm not just gonna go to the top because who say they're gonna listen to me,
It's worth a try though.
This
It
is
is
true.
worth a try.
This is true. But I might just try it. But
Maybe we should write some letters. The viewers, the public, people that's fed up, people that feel the way they feel about law enforcement. I think it could be a team effort.
That's true, and it takes y'all to do it. You know what I mean? Because we got to come in, we got to put that uniform on, and we got to go to work. You know what I mean? We can't sit there and talk all day because then there's calls coming in left and right, in and out, up and down. You know what I'm saying? So I had an instance where I was working traffic, and it took me a while to get to this lady's accident. And when I got there, you know, she was a little upset because it took me a while. You know, we were running short that day, and so me being a silly person I am, I got the lady to laugh. So at the end of me, you know, dealing with them, she was like, "Hey, officer, I'm gonna write you a ticket because you got a headlight out." I was like, "You know what? Write it, but don't put it in my name. Take it down to City Hall and tell them that we need some headlights." You know what I mean? So I did. I told her to do that. You know, and it put a smile on their face. And I personally believe if you think we need something, go down there and do it, because they'll listen to, you know, people that's not wearing a uniform, because all they want to do is come in and go to work. You know, I'm not programmed. I'm not a machine. I wake up, I put my pants on one leg at a time, just like everybody else. You know what I'm saying? So it's going to take, and just like this George Floyd thing, like Cisco touched on. You know, it took for something like that to change, you know, what's going on now. So I do believe that, you know, that'll help.
That's a good situation there. You alluded to the fact that there's gray areas in policing. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, when you guys take that uniform off, you're men, your fathers, your sons to someone, everyday citizens. Is there ever a fear that with those same gray areas that is in law enforcement, that you could be a victim of police brutality or any of that once that uniform is off?
I wouldn't say a fear, man, but it could happen. It could definitely happen. Just because you could be in the wrong place, wrong time, wrong person. Yeah, it could definitely happen. But I wouldn't say it's a fear. I don't live in that fear.
Yeah, I agree. I don't live in it either. And honestly, if I'm driving and I get pulled over, a lot of people may not believe it, but I never tell people I'm a cop. Never tell people I'm police. Reason being is, if you pull me over, you pull me over for a reason. You got a job to do. Do it. You know what I mean? Can it happen? It can happen. Do I want it to happen? I don't. You know what I mean? Nobody does. But, you know, whatever happens, happens. Nobody, I mean, people don't find out I'm a cop until I'm actually having a conversation with them about, you know what I mean? Well, how long you been doing it? And I don't get into it, because most of the time I get pulled over. If I get pulled over at all, it's because I'm speeding, because I'm actually late going somewhere. You know what I mean? So if I'm gonna get stopped for speeding, you write me a ticket. You just write me a ticket. I got to deal with it. You know what I'm saying? So that's just how far as it goes with me.
Is the Blue Lives Matter, this is our thing because we see people quoting Black Lives Matter? Would y'all say that? I mean, all you could do is give your opinion.
You're saying like it started because of Black Lives
Yes.
Matter? I'm sure it triggered something. Do I feel that way? No. Like, I don't be going in parades. I don't be like, hey, everybody, I'm a cop.
Yeah.
I don't be doing that, man.
Does it affect you when you see the whole Black Lives Matter movement? Do you not like it, or do
No.
you support it?
No, it doesn't affect me. And I support the idea that it comes with, because it is, in my opinion, it is systemic, man. It's been so many years that I do like what they stand for. I don't like that they sometimes get associated with negative aspects of rioting and protesting, because I do agree that they do protest peacefully for the most part. Sometimes rioting happens or something else happens.
Looting and
Right, and that gets tied into all that. On that same note, though, the looting and all that stuff, that's all property, man. I mean, it doesn't affect, like, I don't get all sad because they broke into Gucci and took a bunch, you know? Like,
yeah.
it doesn't
afford
affect me. I don't like seeing it. But on that same note, like, oh, well, man, just replace it, I guess, you know? But at the same time, like, how do you expect all these years of frustration, all these years of just being kind of oppressed, not kind of, being oppressed, what did you think was going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
You know? So, in a way, I do feel like there's change. Everybody's got a phone and all that stuff. I think that does do better than worse, because now everybody can see. And Monday morning quarterback, which is unfortunate, because Why didn't he shoot him in the leg? Well, because he wasn't trained to shoot him in the leg. You're trained to shoot center mass and stop the subject. Why didn't he tell him this or that? Well, I don't know. Everybody's different, but at least now you can kind of see how it plays, and people tend to forget that you have seconds to make a decision. This dude might have been giving up and threw the gun, but you don't know that. And depending on your department policy, if you see a gun, it's an action. It's a gun in hand, gun in use. Like I said, my department's not like that, but other departments are. They see a gun in your hand, that's it.
That's a different story here. Do you feel like the Blue Lives Matter came into effect once the Black Lives Matter?
Most definitely. And I think it caused, more conflict between the two. Do I support Black Lives Matter? Absolutely not. My reason being is because it's just like Cisco said, that it's not, the protesting is good. You get stuff done by protesting. Good protest is how you get stuff done. Now, when you start, doing stuff that's negative and you blame it on this organization, people gonna look at you as a negative organization. So a lot of black guys come from Black Lives Matter, and I engage in conversations with people to say Black Lives Matter. I talked to this girl after working a side job one day. She said, "Officer, you putting us out? Come on, you black, I'm black. Black Lives Matter." And I looked her square and I said, "Who started that?" She couldn't answer. A lot of people say, "Oh, a white man started that."
Yeah, a lot of people do say that.
Yeah, but he didn't. That white man that everybody's thinking of, I'm not gonna say a name. He funded it. He may put a lot of money behind it. Well, hell, he got a lot of money. You know what I mean? Until somebody can look me in my face and walk up to me and say, "Well, I know who started this organization. I want to talk about it." Then I'll understand from their aspect. Because I know who started it. I know when it started, and I know why it started. You know what I mean? But that's just me doing my research. Just like when, everybody say, "Oh, these police are killing, black men." That may be true. But there's also police that's killing white men. They just don't put it out in the public as much, And I think part of it is because, people see opportunity in showing off stuff. So if I can, let's just say, let's say me and Cisco can leave out of here now, and we're gonna go find somewhere to have a drink. If we see something we see something down the street, we see a cop down the street that needs some help, we get out and help him. People are gonna stop and record that and say, "Well, look at what this police doing, and look at these other two assholes." You know what I mean? Not knowing that we're cops, not knowing that there's a failure of duty if you don't help a cop. So until somebody can tell me, and a lot of people don't know because a lot of people just, they just follow it. A lot of people don't know where this Black Lives Matter came from. Until somebody can come up to me and tell me where it came from, then I'm always going to tell them. When you yell Black Lives Matter to me, if you can't tell me who started it, just walk away. Because it's a conversation that needs to be had. If you look back in the news just a couple months ago, one of these people from Black Lives Matter has these 3 almost $1 million houses in these uppity neighborhoods. Where'd you get the money from? You got a lot of people funding this organization, but you don't see where they're donating, X, Y, and Z, or you don't see these people that started it coming out and putting, feet to ground and say, "Hey, this is what we're gonna do." Now you got leaders, or whatever you want to call them. But a couple months back, they put this lady all out in the news. Well, she got 3 houses. These houses are $500,000 houses in these, uppity neighborhoods. That ain't what they were standing for at first. So now everybody's like, "Well, where'd you get the money from?" Now you don't really see a whole lot of Black Lives Matter.
I gotta get back to you on that because I do remember the story you're talking about. It did come out.
Yeah.
There was a follow-up that didn't get a lot of press on it to where they brought up her showing her portfolio of her being in real estate and where she got the money from for this movement. So I don't necessarily want to put it out and have the wrong information, but I do remember what you were talking about. I want to open the floor up to you guys, but before I do, I want to ask quickly, what's your opinion on us bridging the gap? What gets us to a place where people respect law enforcement, feel safe that when I call this officer, they're actually here to serve and protect, and everybody kind of kill a lot of what we see going on. What would be something that you think would bridge that actual gap?
Ride-alongs, just coming with us, having them be next to us, but that's also a gray area, because if something happens to you while you're with me, then I'm in trouble. But I do feel like it should be some sort of subject in school. I mean, school never really told you, if a police pulls you over, what are you supposed to do?
No.
You're just kind of hoping you have a parent that'll take the time out of their day to say, hey, this is what you're supposed to do, this is what you're supposed to do. Have your driver's license, everything situated. But in reality, man, you just grow up and you're just like, oh, the police, and you just kind of just listen to what your friends are saying, and 9 times out of 10, it's not really positive. But I would suggest ride-alongs, or some sort of way where you can follow us for a day and kind of be exposed to that, or have some sort of subject or some sort of period in school where a police officer comes and says, hey, look at my videos. This is what happened on this particular time. This dude was calm and cool, but he had a pistol under his seat or something. Just kind of like reviewing video with people so that they can kind of have an understanding of why, when I'm talking to you, do I sound like a robot, or why do I sound like I want to be in authority. Is because you kind of have to establish that. You kind of have to be a certain way until your actions dictate otherwise. And people sometimes don't get that. They just think I'm an asshole and I'm coming across as like, I'm talking down to you. It comes across that way, but it also, they don't understand that we kind of have to be in that yellow zone, that I can't trust you. I can't be, super nice to you. I would like for us to be like that. I really would. I think it would change. But at the same time, there are people out there. I don't want to say there's bad people out there, but there are people that make bad decisions.
There's bad people out there. We don't say it. I'll say it for you. There's bad people out there. So trust me.
But, I mean, you can only do so much, man. Everybody's on a different frequency. Everybody's on a different wave. At that particular moment, you're not feeling what I'm feeling. But I do feel like maybe coming down or having some sort of relationship with the police officers, but that also goes into funding. Who's going to pay for all that? You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like it almost feels like a never-ending cycle, man. I wish we had the answer to. That would be my suggestion. Ride-alongs or police officers in school, but at the same time, sometimes people don't want police officers in school now. So that would be my suggestion, but
I agree. At one point in time, my department had our dispatchers come ride with us. You know what I mean? So that they can, when we get the calls, we go out on the calls and we see, so they can see or, know exactly what kind of information we need. If you send an officer in somewhere blind and something happens to that officer, you kind of going to feel like you're responsible for it. You know what I mean? So they did that for a while. Helped a little bit to a certain extent, you know what I mean? But I definitely would like for these people to come take a ride with us. Do an 8-hour shift, or for some departments there's 12-hour shifts. You don't have to do the whole 12, but do a shift with that officer, or do a shift in the neighborhood that you ain't familiar with. Do a shift with an officer that you ain't familiar with. You know what I mean? So you can see what go on, see how we get treated, see how we get disrespected, and we just gotta sit there and be like, yeah, you're right. Well, yeah, I'm an asshole. Yeah, all this. I had this one guy disrespect my whole family, and I just sat there and took it. Reason being, I know this guy don't know my family, trying to get a rise out of me. You know what I mean? I'm so humble. You can't get a rise out of me until you come up to me and say, well, call me by name. F you, put your hands on me. Then I know it's personal. You know what I mean? But if I got to take somebody to jail, and this person across the street is recording, all they know is, oh, there go another one. Asshole cop taking somebody to jail. But but they have no reason why. They they don't know why. I was in a situation where we had to call our SWAT team out for something. You know what I mean? This guy was popping off rounds. These people were across the street. We're yelling, "Hey, y'all should probably go back further down the street, or maybe go in the house." Nope. Everybody out there like. So I'm like, well, what's gonna happen? Let's just say he just sporadically start popping rounds out this window. What happens if y'all get hit? Then you're like, well, why the police ain't going there and get him? Why the police ain't going there and shooting him? You know what I mean? So, come out and see, or do it yourself. There's police departments taking applications around the world right now. Once you put yourself in that situation, and then you tell me how you feel after. You know what I'm saying? Some people can't do it.
Yep, I'm one of them. All right, I'm one of them. I'm not gonna do it.
See, you say you ain't one of them. I know how strong you are. You know what I mean? We talk outside of this. Mm-hmm. So, the stuff you put your head to, the stuff you say you're going to do, you're doing. Look at what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? When I started seeing Cisco making those things.
I love this again. This was fly right here.
When I sent him that, I mean, I can hear the wheels in his head turning as we was talking about it. You know what I'm saying? And then when he put the gold flakes on it, he was like, I ain't never did the gold flakes on the piece before, but I'm going to do it on this one. And he was sending, he's sending me pictures. I'm like, that's dope. You know what I mean? So he put his mind to it. He could do it. You know what I'm saying? It's just, in any aspect of life, if you put your mind to something, you could do it. If you put your mind to say, look, I see the police out there struggling. I'm going to go out there and see what I can do. You could do it. You might have some slack from people say, oh, you the ops, or you whatever that means. You helping 12, whatever that means.
They keep that.
You know what I'm saying? Then I'm just gonna be that person. If nobody knows I'm a cop, I'm just gonna be that person where somebody's saying, look at this. He out here. I don't care. I'm my own person. I can't get me in trouble. Nobody can get me in trouble but me. You know what I'm saying? So what I do only affects me and my family. And I'm not putting another reason I don't have social media is because, people put their business out on social media. Not knocking it. You do what you do. I don't put that out there, and these days and times now, somebody will look at me like, oh, I know who that is. I know where his kids live. Now if you want to go and do something to my family, you want to see the other side of me. I am silly. It takes a lot for me to get me upset, bro. Like, it takes a lot for me to fly off the edge. Because I was class clown in school. I broke dance in school, bro. On the table. Cisco, I broke dance on me and another guy. The dean's like, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. What if you hurt yourself? We was like, well, if we hurt ourselves, whatever, it's on us. You know what I mean? So, but for me to go to that other side, for me to turn silly into some silly, you know what I mean? We got to go. We almost got to be at the moon. You know what I mean? Because I can control me. I can control what happens around me. You know what I mean? But yeah, and until somebody say, can I go for a ride? And I encourage it. Yeah, come on, let's go for a ride. And then the minute you get into that chase, you're like, oh hell no, drop me off. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. My very first chase was the scariest thing in the world when I was able to do it by myself. I got on the highway at 120 miles an hour. I was like, no. It was congested on the highway. I'm like, no. To the point where we were chasing this guy. Somebody was like, hey, did they check over here? Nobody said nothing. I'm like, yeah, I'm going. Just because I need to get off of this 120-mile kick because this is scary. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people can't take it, but you never know until you do it. So
I appreciate you guys coming through. I want to open up the conversation to you guys. If there's anything that you want to throw out or something that came to mind that we didn't discuss, I want to give you guys the floor to throw out whatever you want to.
On a personal note, Keith, now I have a friend of mine too that also has a podcast in Indiana. His name's Freddie. He told me, or he asked me, would you ever consider writing a letter and just having it ready? And I didn't know. I was like, no, I've never considered. I never even thought about it. But the more I work, I think like it would be good for me to write something down, kind of leave like a memoir for my daughter or something in the event that something unfortunate happens.
Yeah.
On that same note, I kind of don't want to
Yeah,
because
because
I feel like
Speaking
you're
it
speaking
into
into
existence.
existence, and I don't know how to feel about that. How do you think? Now I'm asking you, would you ever do something like that? Would you ever write like a "I'll forever love you guys" type deal?
Me personally, I would, because I'm start thinking. Now I'm start looking over my shoulder. You know what I mean? Like, man, I wrote this.
That day's coming.
Yeah, you know what I mean. I don't want it to happen. You know what I mean. But if I'm writing it, kind of make me feel like in the back of my head, I know something's gonna happen. You know, I could put the uniform on and go outside and know that anything can happen. I just don't have that worry. But if I go home and sit down and write a letter to my kids, I'm like, kind of know that time is coming, like sooner than later. I don't want that. You know, I don't want to feel like that. So I wouldn't do it personally. I mean, that's just my reasons. You know what I mean? So
I haven't done it yet, but
yeah.
I don't even know if I am gonna do it. But
Yeah, it's just the thought of it, you know what I mean? To throw out there anything about being scared. My personal opinion, you run into a cop that said they ain't scared of nothing, turn around and walk away from that person. Because that mental mindset is already gone. You know what I mean? If we go to a call, let's just say I got a back Cisco up on the call, us being two different states, we can meet at the border, right? So if I got to back him up on the call and Cisco tell me, let's go in there, man. I know they got stuff in there. I ain't worried about nothing. I'm gonna grab his arm like, hold on. We got to stop and think about this. You know what I mean? Because we going. You may say you know what they got in there, but we going into the unknown. That's somebody else's house. You know what I'm saying? You going to somebody else's house, somebody behind that door. As soon as you close the door, blow your brains out. And then, you know, I can't really say you're gonna think too much. You're gonna be like, fuck, I should have wrote that letter. You know what I'm saying? But then again, I ain't one of them cops that say I ain't scared of nothing. You know, there is something that, you know.
yeah, when you're going cold, man, you're driving 100 miles an hour. You're like, fuck, what's gonna happen? You just kind of mentally prepare yourself. But that's the only question I have for Keith.
I gotta. I want to say this too. A lot of people say, and like you said, we go to the unknown. We'll run to gunfights. I will, because I'm a cop. That's what I'm supposed to do, and I know about guns, and I like guns. You know, I got a few to say. You know what I mean? I take my hat off to firefighters though, because I am not going into a burning building.
Yeah, that's real.
I tried it. I went to
For you.
man. I went to the door, opened up the screen door. I got that smoke. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be out here. You know.
Yeah, I would like to say to the viewers that in my heart, 100%, I believe that change is coming. All these old timers, how we call them, they were set in their ways. They're retiring now. They're kind of, they're out the door. Basically, is up to the new guys to be that change. And I want to give that out to all the police officers. You should be that change. You should remember when before you were a cop, why you wanted to be a cop in the first place. That sometimes gets lost. Now that I'm a cop and I've been on for 8 years, I forget the struggle. I forget that I wanted to help people and why I got into this, not just to come out here and give tickets or not just to come out here and be disgruntled or something like that. You got to keep that in focus and keep that in your mind that the reason you did this was for a good reason. It wasn't for a bad reason. So just, I would like to say the change is coming. Newer people are joining that. It's 2021. They've been exposed to stuff like that. That, you know, with the videos and all that stuff, I don't think it never happened back in the day. I'm sure it had probably happened more than it is now. But now that it's out there, you know, wrong is wrong, man. You can't argue that. So, in my opinion, change is coming. Hopefully it comes sooner rather than later.
I definitely think. What did you want to?
Yeah, I'm just gonna touch on that just a little bit. I tell a lot of people this. You know, a lot of people still ask me, you know, why you want to be a cop or why you still like being a police. Reason being, I'm still in it for the right reason. So, for those of y'all that want to get into this profession, you gotta want to be the police these days, because there's gonna be a lot of people out there tempting you. There's gonna be a lot of people out there in your face telling you why you shouldn't do this and why you shouldn't do that, and the police is this and the police is that. On the flip side of that coin, we are the people that those people are calling when they need something. So if you want to get into this profession, it's great to be in. You can learn a lot. You know, there's a lot of training you can get. You know, even after retirement, that training you can take and you can go somewhere and be a six-figure man or a six-figure woman. You know what I mean? So if you want to do it, you gotta want to do it. It's got to be a passion for it. Has to be a passion for it, because if you get into it for the wrong reason, you're gonna be those. You know, you're just gonna have that revolving wheel, and you're just gonna, you know, we're gonna have to backtrack to do it all over again. I hope not. So.
Well, on that note, I appreciate you brothers for coming through. I appreciate you guys being on the side of good cops, policing the way you do. I appreciate both of you guys having your own outlets, that when things get a little too tough for you mentally, you do your woodwork, you do your travel. I definitely appreciate that. Answering any questions that I had, putting it out to the public. I definitely want to continue these conversations with you guys. Any way we can help and push this situation forward to where people feel more comfortable with dealing with law enforcement, and regular 9-to-5ers, you know, getting the insight on what it's like to be a police officer. You know, that change has to come from somewhere. We can't continue another 5 years and 10 years with that old mentality of what has happened. So I definitely appreciate you guys. Any suggestions that viewers got, email, DM, let us know. I want to definitely do my part. And again, I appreciate you guys coming through. Tune in to the next episode of the Thought Provoking Podcast. See you later.